what we aim from this is to establish investor relations at the same way that traditional companies do, right? So people started doing ICOs with no accountability and no feedback. And we know that usually public companies, which we are not, they have investor calls and ways for investors to interact with the companies. So we started doing these quarterly reports, and we went over different places where we had favorable conditions for doing the events and also people on the ground. And moving forward, we will do these events online because we have seen that there is strong demand to have live streaming and to have live interaction with people around the world. And it's really not feasible to have live streaming and guarantee quality when you have a floating international moving office like ours. This is the second anniversary. So Nash itself, as a formal entity, does not have 2 years yet. But this actually marks the moment where we bootstrapped the group that would become the founders. After a trip I did to Shanghai, and we marked this as our second anniversary because of that. And it's the beginning of a long history, only 2 years, but look to have happened so much more. So it's with a lot of pleasure that I start the Q3 second year quarterly reports. And I will focus here on operations and mobile. So operations, I actually want to focus here on the execution that we need to do on operations. So I have a phrase here, which is, even if you are in the right track, you can still be run over if you stand just sitting there, right? So the idea is, even though it looks like we are in the right path, even though we have been following feedback from users, if we don't move fast, the train gonna get us, right? And operations is a way for us to continue to run our company and keep execution high. And execution was the theme of the previous quarterly report, and I'm doubling down here from the perspective of actually running the company now. So I would like to talk a little bit about the platform VP launch. So everybody here is probably aware that we had problems when we went to launch. So that was a failure of execution that we had, that I hope we are fixing it with new processes, and more importantly, a process for testing. So going forward, testing and Q&A will have even more weight on our decisions, and readiness will have even more weight on our decisions. And not only because we want to be perfectionists, that's not it, but because we want to guarantee that the timelines we commit to are actually achieved. So that's not all bad, because we actually deliver something very innovative. It's the first of its time, so everyone from the team should be very proud of the product we have today. We have the zero knowledge funds management for NEO and ETH. So this is like a unified wallet. We have the cross-chain for ERC20 and M5. Also NEO ETH at the base chain. This is also first time technology of the characteristics, sorry for the English, the performance properties are actually achieved. And we have established a Fiat Ramp marketplace. We had this series of hypotheses on our product. One was that people would keep the funds on centralized exchanges because it was much more convenient as a wallet. So instead of having 20 wallets of all different tokens that you hold, and here generalized for chains, people would just keep on centralized exchanges because of the load of having all those things. So that's why the first product. Then we look at that, why people was not actually operating liquidity at decentralized exchanges, which is the core feature for an exchange. And we look at it, and it was basically performance properties. So they could not deliver the properties of price time priority, right? So you could front run in some of those, even though you had better time, better price, just by paying higher fees. And you could not get latency and execution guarantees that you needed. So a lot of effort, especially at the beginning on trying to draw the system, was put And I thank the other founders, Stone and Ethan here, for all the work there. And we actually deliver that. So for the first time, we have now a system which is running that can demonstrate these properties. And we worked very hard to bring partners and put our own money to prove that we could do this liquidity, right? So this is something I want to bring forward in the future. So now that we have proven that, now that it's not just a pipe dream anymore, we need to push that as far as we can. And Fiat Ramps marketplace was another hypothesis that we had, which was a lot of business are proliferating around the path of bringing fiat to crypto and crypto to fiat, right? So we have about $8 trillion in the market of cash today that if crypto is really to become the standard, they will need to have a way to move into crypto, in and out, right? This will be a cyclical process. So a lot of business have been spawning from that. And we wanted to offer a place where people would not feel compelled of leaving the product to actually do this. But how can Nash, a single company with a team of this size, have a footprint on all the countries in the world to allow this movement for cash? And building a marketplace was the answer for that. We are going to continue to grow this marketplace because all these three hypotheses have been demonstrated. So we have demonstrated that people actually keep their funds on their wallets. We have demonstrated the capacity for liquidity. And we have demonstrated that business will compete for this service, and users will actually use a marketplace, not a single brand solution inside the platform. So we heard user feedback. So Eric and Nate were in a lot of interviews together with me and without me. We also heard the Nash community in the form of written, as you guys can see. And we look at metrics, we look at SEMrush, we look at Google Analytics, and try to understand where our users are. We are gonna double down on metrics. So now that our product is much more stable, this will be an important task moving forward, especially in the next couple months. And I will be working a lot with Luciano and the accounts team to establish these metrics, to establish attribution, and really scale how we measure these things. But we had received a lot of feedback. And with feedback, we got back to the drawing board, and we have a few changes. And we have been rolling up these updates. So here, on execution, we are becoming better at deploying updates, which is what we should be. So I hope that this slide that I'm showing now is actually a tenth of what we become in the next 40 days, right? So I hope that we can deploy more than once a day. For us to do that means that our process pipeline and our testing pipeline is really working. There's no reason to do that. Some of the companies that we are going after, they actually deploy hundreds of times a week. So we need to keep the cadency and allow us to push improvements as fast as we develop them. So we have always this improvement which is sitting, waiting to be deployed. We should strive within our company as much as possible to, as soon as improvement actually reach master, he's in a condition that could be pushed to production. So we have done 23 backend deployments, and we have seen that in the beginning, this frequency was slower, especially because of problems of how we deploy the backend. So we needed to do guarantee that we would not get in situations that would put the reproducibility of the backend in trouble. So it means that we are becoming better on this task, but we can even become better. I think 21 deployments for 40 days is fairly good, actually, for a startup that just put MVP in the product. It means that every 2 days, in average, we have a new backend online. And we did 30 front-end development deployments. So that means that in about 1.5 days, we had a new front-end. It could be a small change, but it's an important change because it means that we are approaching the product from the development. And more importantly, I think these numbers are the beginning of the reflect of our new focus on deployment and development processes. And we're gonna take very seriously the process in terms of how we follow them. The process should guide us in crisis, and the process should guide us in happiness. So the process should stay there regardless of the conditions, and we should be as productive as we can. I'm very happy to say that we are better than our industry, also in support, which is very critical. So for whoever was in the bubble of 2014 or on the bubble of 2017, you have seen the problem of support on exchanges. So you would send a support ticket for one of our competitors like Coinbase, and you would wait 5 or 6 days to have even acknowledgement of receiving this ticket. And we have currently 3.2 hours to solution. And this is when you put in place that we have quite a few outlines of people that actually needed to wait for more advanced KYC verification. If you remove those outliers, means we are beating the competition very strongly in support. So thank you very much for the team there. We also have left chat in US and EU. So this is in line with our strategy moving forward. So we really want to focus on the markets that we already can operate. Spreading to more markets is not only costly and people intensive. I think that the best strategy for us is to first win in the markets that we currently can operate, which are huge. We are talking here about more than 1 billion people. So these markets are the places where we're going to focus in the next months. And having live chat support is one of the reasons that we can explore these markets. So I think a lot overlooked at, but very important for us, is the continued development of tooling for support. So the unseen part of Nash, the admin of Nash, has been improving very much for support. So we started with very few tooling for support, how they could verify the information, how could they track the user's information. This is becoming much better. So I think this is something that we need to continue to build. And the team that was focused on that part, on authentication, just went from 1 person to 2 persons. So I hope that is a 100% improvement also. So very good on that side. And all that, hearing back from support, hearing back from the community, makes us more aware of the product. So a major concern at the founders right now is how fit we are with our product and how much we are touching of our real customers that are bringing trading. And we did detect a few changes in the product that we needed, and we are doing that in parallel with all the efforts. So the first one is the first users of Nash are stakers, and they need a better way to track how stakes of different days and different portions of Next they did. So this is the new design that Nathaniel came out of how we're gonna aggregate and make it much easier for understand the stakes. It's already being implemented. I think that we are working now on the statement side, so it's very close to reaching actually production. There is also subtle but very important changes on the portfolio. We are changing the graph, the technology, to something that will be much better. We are also making more clear that trading and personal are available assets, and removing a lot of unneeded visual aid that is actually being in the way of the information. So you can look, it looks much more clean, but it has actually more information. So this is the direction we want to go. right? Not remove information, but add information in such a way that it becomes clearer. Same thing for the advanced exchange. So this is a three-piece act. So we are changing the component from orders. So we removed a few of the information that was actually not actionable, not needed, and inputted it on the type. So you can see here, before you would have a column for stop price, which doesn't really make sense because most of your orders doesn't have a stop price. So we now bundle it inside the type. So you have, for example, stop at and then the price of stop. But for other limit orders and buy orders, market orders, you only have like limit buy, limit sell. So it takes less horizontal space. With that, we were able to actually put buy and sell one by the side of the other. This is actually a very common feedback from users and especially traders, that you want to quickly go from buy and sell. And it's actually interesting to get to this design from several iterations of feedback and look that some of our main competitors actually do the switch still. So I think we are being, and not only that, the switch they have has been in place for so long that I actually am starting to think it's just never changed. So the fact that we are willing to do these changes and take on feedback is very important. We are also moving recent trades here. It's very hard to notice from this screen, but actually, again, being clear and having more information is, this is actually a 768 screen, so it's a 720p screen, which from our data is the majority of users that visit our website. And if you look at our website from that resolution before, you would not be able to fit this amount of information. And now we can do that. So this is an upcoming change also. The order panels is mostly there. Bundle into this behind the scenes is a very important change from the trading team, which is we are changing from pulling to actually be pushing into the order panels. So a lot of people has the impression that Nash actually is lower than it is. And this is not only a UX problem, it's a detriment to the technology that we have built. And now with the push in orders, they will be able to see instantaneously the order getting into the books, instantaneously the order being filled and canceled. So there's no waiting time anymore. So the UX is a lot improved, and the speed of our system is much more clear to the user now. Building liquidity. So this is going to be the focus for Q4, was the focus at the end of Q3. So we always do these reports based on what has been. So we are looking at what we worked and where we are right now. But liquidity will continue to be the focus for Q4. We started with liquidity on new ETH, new USDC, and ETH USDC. We worked together with a partner to do that. And here is where we proved the hypothesis that we could actually operate at the speed it needed to have liquidity from other markets reflected into our exchange. So the first act that we will do is expand the same setup that we did for those markets to other secondary markets that we currently have. With that expansion, we will start a program internally for better price. So upcoming and ongoing is a set of reconfigurations in the markets. So in November, you will see we will reconfigure most of the markets that we have. A few will stay the same, but this is optimization for several pieces. For example, tick size, order size, all these things are being tuned based on data. And we will start something that I am personally very excited, so maybe we can talk a little bit here, which is the best price program. And this should be by the end of October. So currently, we build a lot of technology. We build front end, we build back end, and so on. But that's all to sustain the business. And the business needs liquidity to work. So what we proved before here is that we can actually bring liquidity from other markets. But if we do that, we are not beating the other markets. We are only being at most as good as they are. But it's not our goal to be as good as they are. Our goal is to attract traders, to have traders that are currently trading our competition come to our exchange. So for that, we will need to do a best price program and try to have in our books prices that are better than competition. This will not be easy and will be much more business and small developments, a lot of mathematics, than actually coding a lot of Elixir and a lot of JavaScript. Additional to that is bringing markets that people actually want to trade, right? So I'm not even naming here because it will be a list of comments for where is Bitcoin, right? So everybody knows Bitcoin is desired. And Bitcoin is not easy to be added in a decentralized exchange. It's almost impossible, actually. And we are doing that, but it will not be in a short time. It will be by the end of the year, at least. So we are being very clear that expectation is that, right? So to be live, where people can enter anyone, is by the end of the year. So what we will do is right now in October, continue to add markets in Ethereum or Neo that are interesting, that people is actually trading right now. So we have a few ERC20 tokens that are quite popular in the moment. We will leverage those to continue to grow in markets while we work in Bitcoin as the new chain should be supported. Okay, so mobile, how important mobile is actually a question that I have heard from people very involved with the project. And we know how much of our current visitors use mobile. But we need more attribution to know exactly what's the profile of these people that's using mobile. Is this the same person that is checking his account or some market in mobile right now, but he would stay with us even if we don't have mobile? So this is a big question. But mobile is not important for Nash only because of that. It's not only because it's a new window to the product we have. But mobile is our gateway to the payments. So it was always a strategy of Nash to have in the pocket Nash Pay, right? So that we push payments. And when we think about payments, it's all happening on mobile today. And that is the reason that we keep pushing on mobile, that we keep building on mobile. So I will bring mobile together with another component, which is Fiat Ramps. So Fiat Ramps is the marketplace that I talk about. But establishing a Nash Fiat Ramps together with our mobile will be a strategy to how we bootstrap Nash Pay, how we bring Nash Pay from idea to actually implementing it. So to do that, we divided the mobile strategy in 4 phases. So the phase number 1 is only focused on KYC, so identity verification. Phase number 2 is a mobile wallet. And when I say mobile wallet, is a wallet integrated with Nash, so all the zero-knowledge key management features in mobile. Phase number 3 is payment. And payments here is touching the Fiat Ramp part that I was telling about. And the final phase is the full trading experience. So bringing the last mile is bringing trading to mobile. So our mobile team, which has changed and grow and so on, went from phase 1, identity verification, to work on phase 2. And phase 2 is really going well. I'm not giving timelines because people would be very pressure for that, but it's soon, and sooner than the usual soon. So, So this is how it looks like, and how it looks like is already decided, so that's why I can show it. You can see here three important parts of the app for Nash, which are markets, the portfolio and activity. So market, portfolio, and activity. You can see here that the way it looks like depends on the view that the user chooses. So you can pin. So you can see here, for example, markets pinned. So this person probably is more of a trader. He's following markets. But you can also pin the portfolio, which I believe is the default. I'm not sure, maybe. But I think the portfolio is, and this is really familiar a mobile banking experience when you have your portfolio pinned and you look at an activity, should be something very close to the best of mobile banking, at a little bit more technical because of our blockchain features there. But we are trying to make it very simple to digest all the proliferation of coins, all these features where you have many currencies and many different assets to pay with also. So expectation is for this to be to App Stores in November. How soon in November we will see, but I think it's a good, a month, it's a good time frame to give to this feature. Fiat Ramps Marketplace. So we have added Fiat Ramps for US first. We did have problems when we went live because there was an outage that made connections with the bank that we were testing fail. So this was just the cherry on top of some problems. But we did deploy in US and it's working well. So far, we have not seen major issues with it, and actually, we have seen people increasingly use that. There is a few limitations in the US regarding all the KYC that's really heavy when you compare to other options. So we will work to make this even more seamless with more partners. And right after the US, we added a partner in Europe. This was actually a completely new partner that's allowing credit card. So we have right now live these two partners, and we are looking to integrate to new partners by November. We, together with these new partners and also increasing the partnership with our current ones, we want to bring higher limits in Europe and allow SEPA transfer support. So this is a bank transfer support, which has very low fees. So it's very important for people who is onboarding into crypto. And also here, we are working to, when integrating all these different partners, we learn so much how they work, how they operate, and what is the demand for their services. So we are using this knowledge to work on Nash Pay Fiat system. And to do this specification is one of the tasks that are coming as outcome of this. So a lot of execution. I talked really fast in the beginning, and I hope you guys got all the things that we did. Q3 was really intense. The launch was really intense, pushing so many upgrades. So I'd like to say thank you for all the team, for all your efforts. I think a lot of people gave 110% on the efforts of having this live and making it. We are just in the beginning. Do not think you'll be dripping, having so much space to breathe, because the product is accelerating, not slowing down. And our community should be also really proud of the product we have. I did not touch here because I wanted to have this pause to say that the community, we will start a program inside the community to this new phase. So it's not part of Q3, but it's something that we started to plan in Q3, which is we will have a program where some of the community will be called to help us on the capillarity and the word-to-mouth power of our product. It's very similar to an ambassador program, but it will have its differences, like Nash always has. And I hope the people in the community on the ground will be very happy working with us, because it has been always been a pleasure. And with that, we will continue to monitor metrics and have even more attribution, so that we can finally find our funnel and really promote to the people that are going to be our users. So thank you very much for the time. Let's have the break. And after that, we'll be doing a Q&A with all the founders here, not just me hugging the fun. So thank you very much. We will start the AMA. Amstu will be making the questions. So these questions were selected from the community. Let's do one question from here, and then if there is a question, a pressing question from the audience, we answer, but we then just go moving on the questions from the community. Take Amstu.
All right, so first question here is, do you think we're on the right track to become a top 50 CMC ranked exchange by volume within 6 months of launch, April 2020? PS, loving the MVP progress so far. Who wants to take that?
Yes.
That's the plan, Stu.
So 75% of fees for those who block tokens for 2 years will be maintained forever, even if it is a Q3 report. Could you do us a sort of roadmap of Nash short-term projects Q4?
Wait, sorry, that seemed like two questions.
Oh, that's actually true. There are 2 questions. Yeah,
Okay,
75%
yeah, all right,
of fees.
So the first question is, will the 75% fee rate be maintained forever? And I think the answer to that is yes. The second question, what was that?
Even if it's a Q3 report, could you do some sort of roadmap for Nash short-term projects in Q4?
I think Fabio already sort of gave a sense of our emphasis there. So I don't know if anyone wants to add anything else.
All right, cool. Does anybody in the crowd have any pressing questions that we want to ask?
You can say and we repeat. You can say the question and we repeat for the record.
The question is when will bonds and metals be traded?
Sorry, when will what?
So the question was when commodities will be traded. I think that's several years away, not only because of Nash, but I don't even know if there is some producer tokenizing their assets. Right, but like metals and bonds from those kinds of commodities. I think digital commodities, maybe we already trade those, so digitalized commodities will take a few years. I hope we go in that direction, but we have to remind also that if other things are more profitable for Nash, maybe we don't trade commodities. Maybe we become this payments superpower. I don't know. By then, many things will happen.
Thanks for the question. Next one. Hi, only 10,000 is required to get another coin or blockchain for legal fees. So the Nash team will probably pay in the form of working hours. My question is it planned to integrate the current top 20 coins even without inquiries or legal costs?
I mean, short answer is we need to do legal analysis of anything that we're adding to the platform, period. But maybe Fabian wants to say more.
Yeah, so it's definitely the plan to add them. And I think the benefit of those is that there are already a lot of legal opinion out there that we can leverage. So we just need our lawyers to actually look at those, and it's much more cost efficient for us. So we will definitely go for those.
Yeah, I would add our other restriction is from the technology side. So chains that aren't smart contract capable um, will have lower priority unless they're in the Bitcoin family, in which case, once we're ready for trading Bitcoin, we'll be adding support for trading any other Bitcoin-derived chain as soon as possible.
So there's a bit of a follow-up as well. Since it costs not just little, I don't even know what that says. Will the $10,000 concept have a future because the top 20 changed relatively fast?
So we are not selecting by coin market cap, so they do not define the order that we add coins. So we are not following like we're gonna add top 20 hours. So I don't think the question applies. Basically.
Is it possible to apply the technology behind Bitcoin trading to the other non-smart contract-enabled blockchains? Not talking about Bitcoin forks like Litecoin, but rather Nano, Stellar, Monero, IOTA, etc.
I mean, that would obviously be on a case-by-case basis, and I don't think we've looked into enough, like many of these. But I would say, of these that you've mentioned, at least a few of these do have something that looks, very much like Bitcoin scripting language, or maybe even like smart contracts. And there, I imagine these kinds of things would generalize. But I don't want to give any specific answer there because we haven't really looked into it too closely.
But just to be, he is asking specifically if the Bitcoin technology works for Nano or Stellar. If that was perfectly the case, there would be no reason for those other chains. So of course they are different. So there are differences in any protocol for trading that we need to do.
But I mean, if you're asking sort of like the general insight behind, how we were able to accomplish this thing, I think that as an abstraction may carry over. So that is an interesting and kind of exciting thing.
All right, next question. Nash has and is achieving many world firsts: cross-chain non-custodial trading, non-custodial Bitcoin trading, hardware wallet beating key security using MPC, etc. These are all things that no one else has achieved and worth promoting. Has the team compiled a list of these world firsts? If so, what are they, and does the team have a marketing plan to promote them?
So it's not word first, it may be a strong word, but word best is where we are going after. We do promote those. So Forbes just called us unhackable. I think that's a clear promotion and very bold also. So I think one say here is that a lot of people that's not very familiar or is not professionals of marketing, they think advertising is the solution to bring users. That's a good solution to expend money, actually, not to bring users. And what we are focusing right now is actually strengthening the brand and finding where we can find users that actually bring value to the company. So it's not only doing advertising, that we are not going to push that unless there's indication that pushing advertising some channel is profitable for us in terms of attracting users. I hope that clarifies.
Yeah, I would add that, I mean, we haven't activated the marketing plan that we have in place for once.
We have not deployed Bitcoin trading, neither the MPC yet also. So his question is like, it's the future, the future, the future.
Any other questions from the crowd at this point? All right. Next question. How many project applications did you receive to date? And how many of those are being worked on and how many were refused?
62 projects applied, 0 have been refused, and we are talking with 2 currently to be listed as soon as legal is possible.
So a second part to that is when will we see more projects being added at an accelerated pace?
We will continue to add projects at accelerated pace. Is if we add one, is already accelerated. So
Good
a
point.
bit undefined, but we will be adding projects, but we will not add every project that's out there. If they want to bring their liquidity and they want to bring their community to Nash, we are very happy with partner with them. We can actually empower this partnership and help them be a great success case. But we, as Nash ourselves, we will look first for the markets that bring most value to our users. So this is not 60 markets. This is maybe 6 or 7 main markets that we will be building.
So one of the bottlenecks we currently have is legal work on listing tokens, and we did actually increase our capacity there. So we onboarded another partner. So we expect these to go a bit further and faster in the future.
So next question. I would like to know if you are working on the integration of other assets simultaneously. In other words, we all know that Bitcoin is our priority at the moment, and I think it would be obvious we all appreciate this. But after Bitcoin trading is implemented, will you start from scratch again, or is there something already working on the following implementations?
So anything we do for the Bitcoin implementation is going to generalize very easily to other kinds of coins like Litecoin, for example. And so you're not going to be starting from scratch there. And this is something we're thinking about when we're developing these things in the first place. As far as other things go, like MPC, et cetera, these are very different kinds of projects, and these are simultaneously being worked on. So I guess that's another answer to this question. But in terms of like the previous question and other very different kinds of assets, that's something obviously that is a different story.
Also, if we are looking so far in the future, right, the question is very future centered. We also support the 2 most used VMs, which is the Neo VM, which has ontology Neo, and the EVM, which is really important in the blockchain industry, to the point that almost every new blockchain project that I have seen that's building a network, they say EVM compatible, so they are adding a layer of EVM, and we have a system for that. So we should have easier support for those networks.
All right, next question. How are you going to tackle institutions? Many hedge or VC funds have regulatory restrictions regarding custody of their investments. So even if they wanted to use Nash, they might not. This is why Coinbase has developed Coinbase Custody. A lot of these players are starting to use it. Do you have any plan to develop a similar product to Coinbase Custody that would be used by institutions?
So we have been discussing MVP in the MPC in the term of security to the users, but actually that's a very important tool for exactly this case, which is you can have a custodian which has all the parts of the key, but for the customer to interact with Nash, he does not need to have the full knowledge of the key. So this would allow us to have a custodian that do not be online on the trading transfers, and also be non-custodian ourselves and do the trading, which is something much more powerful than all the solutions we have today in terms of custody for exchanges. And is exactly the same kind of expectation of the VC, of the institutional investor, that his funds are not at risk because he's trading on that exchange. In a sense that even he losing the keys is not the risk.
All right, so with the current fiat gateways only suitable for card buys and not being a viable alternative to other exchanges, what can we expect going forward? Is the plan still to acquire necessary licenses to hold our fiat, have bank transfers and fiat pairs?
I think I answered this question in the presentation. So we are continuing to grow the integration with the current partners we have. So we will be having not only credit cards for Europe. So this is actually a question already focused on Europe because in US we already support bank transfers. So we'll be also supporting bank transfers in Europe. Regarding the plan of necessary licenses to hold our fiat, I think this is a very generic question. Depending where we are, we already have money transmitter licenses, but we do not envision to be a custodian service. Our goal is to be non-custodian, and that's the systems we are building. So there will be easy ways to go from fiat to crypto, but we do not envision in this moment so you that have a building a balance where we have custody in the system. I hope this is clear for the person like the question.
Short one. Can you tell us more about Nash Pay?
Yes, so Nash Pay is a very cool service that requires us to first win our current business. So the way we envision Nash Pay works was using our own markets for liquidity. So it requires us to having some level of success in the exchange to follow our initial plan. And we are focusing on building Nash Pay by focusing in small pieces that are critical to it. As I said on the presentation, the mobile app and the Fiat Ramps from Nash. But more importantly than that, to make the exchange a powerful platform that we can actually build a payment solution on top of it.
So a question about hardware wallet. This is a sore spot for many community members and those new to Nash, if possible.
Sure. So the high-level idea is you're able to split a single private key into two private keys. And what happens there is that then each half of the key will sign off on something that you want to do. And only when both halves are combined together in a specific way can you actually end up doing this thing. And so this is a kind of a very specific form of MPC, but it's very powerful, and we're using it in this case. And so what it allows us to do is basically give you the ability to attempt to do certain transactions, have us follow a policy that will allow them to go through or not go through. So for example, let's say you have 100 Bitcoin in your account, but you want to specify a policy where you can only withdraw 1 Bitcoin a day. We can enforce that policy by basically refusing to co-sign on these transactions that you want to make from your account. And so if someone were to get the private key that you hold, then they wouldn't be able to take all of your Bitcoin at once. Now, at the same time, somewhere else, you have the full key material, right? So you still own your key, maybe in some encrypted backup somewhere in some other device, a key that's not being used very commonly in practice. But for everything you're doing on a day-to-day basis, you're using this sort of other half of the key to initiate these transactions. And this can really be applied to anything, right? So I used withdrawal as an example, but it can also be applied to trades or anything else you're doing in the system. So this basically means, and if an attacker gets into your browser, your computer, whatever it is, there's a very clear limit to the damage that they can pull out on your account. So I don't know if anyone else wants to add to that.
Maybe just the business vision of it is to be very familiar to banking users. So you have your mobile bank, you today can set your limit for the card. Like I'm gonna spend this amount daily, maximum, or this amount maximum monthly. So that's the same thing. And the critical thing, right? When you lose your private keys, that you can call your bank and say, hey, cancel my card, this is also something that we would support. So you would basically enter in contact with Nash. Hey, Nash, I lost my keys. Please block this account. And we would be able to say, okay, we're going to follow your policy. At the same time, being different than the bank is that we couldn't actually move that money anywhere ourselves. All we can do is follow this policy or not. So.
Yeah, just to add a little more on the tech side. So what I described earlier might have sounded very similar to like a multi-signature smart contract or a multi-signature script, but it's actually more powerful than that in that you're composing basically full transactions using both half of these keys. And so this means, you know, basically things like giving us the information we need to execute a trade on Nash are possible to do sort of independently using both of these pieces. Has nothing to do with like other smart contracts or other intermediaries you're putting in between you and your funds. And it also is just a much more efficient way of getting at this stuff. So it's actually much more powerful than that, even if the use case I described sounded like a multi-sig.
Does it require the blockchain?
Yeah, no blockchain at all.
Before I go on, is there any questions from the crowd at this point? Last question. Good. Okay. So I guess if that's it, do you want to say a last few words?
No, I just wanted to thank again the team and the visitors and say that we have snacks at the bottom and drinks. So enjoy yourselves and talk to your peers, people from the company, but also people outside from the company. Meet a few of our investors, what they think. And for the investors, meet our team. The great opportunity to be in minority. Usually you are in a channel with 5,000 investors and no one can think. Now you are in a room full of the team and almost no investors, so take advantage. Thank you very much.